like to call to order the November 20th, 2018 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Let's begin our meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Please, if you've got your cell phone with you, please turn it off or put it on mute. I'd also like to announce that we have parking validation and bus passes available for any folks who've used the county parking deck to attend this meeting. The security, law enforcement personnel with us can give you validation for the parking pass, or if you use public transit to get here, they'll give you validation for that as well. So feel free to ask them about that on your way out. With our meeting this week, just before the Thanksgiving holiday, I thought I would begin this meeting by asking each of our commissioners to share something that they are thankful for before our meeting. So I'm going to start over on this side with Commissioner Fryer, and we'll just go down and love to hear folks say a few words about things we have. We have a lot of things to be thankful for in Buncombe County, and so I'd invite you to just share a word.
I'm thankful for what we try to do here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm thankful for the people of Buncombe County, all the people. Without y'all, we're nothing. You know, we try to listen. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes everything works out good. But the fact is, we're here for you, or I am for you, and for the people that work for Buncombe County, the 1,500 employees that we have here, that we're very proud of, or I'm very proud of. You know, we're losing a member tonight. This is our last meeting. And we've been here 6 years together. His name was Wonder? No. It was Ellen Frost, excuse me. No. We spent too much time there. But anyway, there is some, we've had our ups, we've had our downs. From different parties, but we tried to work out situations through the years. And 6 years is a long time. You know, so, but she has made a decision on her own that she's going to walk away. We have a new board member coming in, but, you know, we all got to be thankful, including her, that we have and are having the opportunity to work with all of you. This is the fullest I've seen this room in a long time. And that's what we supposedly should have. It's the people coming to us. And that's what they're looking at. And that's, you know, and we have staff in here that can hear the same things that we're saying. But, you know, God knows that, you know, people in California, the people that's lost in fires, people this and that. Buncombe County, we've had some rains and stuff, and we've had some rough times. But we're going to make it all work out, and I thank everybody giving us the opportunity, not just me, but us the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
You embarrassed yourself enough, Fryer. I'm very thankful for my family and my 4 beautiful grandchildren. That is part of why I want to be a county commissioner, is to look for the future of Buncombe County. Also, bringing transparency, I'm very thankful that we're going to bring transparency back to our county employees and let them spread the word out to the public that we are doing the best that we can. And last, I'm thankful that I get to do this 4 more years. I thank everyone that voted me in, that I can help this county and help you, help my family, and everyone make this a great place to continue with.
I'm going to echo what my 2 colleagues have said and just express how grateful I am for this community. Every single day of every single week, I get to hear incredible stories from across our community. Last week there was a chance to visit some county schools and just see the extraordinary work happening there. I think each of us could probably talk for hours about how inspired we are by the passion and creativity and big heart of Buncombe County. And I feel grateful for that every day. I feel blessed and honored to be in this role. And I was saying to a friend the other day who was just asking how things on county commission were going, and you can answer that question a lot of different ways, but what came to my mind first was that it really is an honor every day to serve with this group of folks and learn from people and figure out what it means to be friends and colleagues when you don't agree on everything, but you also can find ways to agree on things and sometimes be surprised by that, and that's a pretty great feeling. So those are some of the things. Also, my family's growing. We're having twins in January. We have a little 4-year-old at home, so I feel grateful for the health of my wife and our babies as they grow, and in for a very wild ride ahead. Thank you.
All right, well, I will also just say that I'm very thankful I feel very thankful for all the different people in our community who contribute to public service in our community in all the different ways that they do. To the folks who I get to serve with up here, congratulations to Mr. Presley on his re-election, and the other great folks who stepped forward to serve. And the first couple times I ran for office, I did not get elected. I've learned that it's more fun when you win than when you don't win, but you learn a lot from it either way. And so I want to say thanks to all the people who put themselves forward, especially those who didn't win, but who did it anyway, and who I know will continue to be involved in the community in a lot of different positive ways. To all our public staff who run this operation day in and day out, we thank you. None of this would happen without you. To the folks who've served before, I see former Chairman Nathan Ramsey with us. Appreciate the service of everyone who's worked here before and continues to contribute to our community in so many great ways.
So I want to try to echo some of the feelings of the commissioners, but I'm going to give you what I'm thankful for personally, and then I'll share with you what I'm thankful for on a commission level. The first thing I'm thankful for is my relationship with my Lord and my Heavenly Father, and secondly is my bride of 43 years, and she was my first date, and so I'm one of those stories where we've been together for a lifetime, and it usually gets an awe from some of the ladies in the room. But, and then my son Joseph, my daughter Leslie, my son-in-law Nathaniel, and daughter-in-law Haley, and I have 3 grandchildren. AJ, Fern, and Caden. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that my grandchildren are internet sensations and beautiful children. And as Robert's got girls coming out his ears, so I don't know how he's going to be able to. I don't know how you're going to be able to afford all those grandbabies, but anyhow, they're beautiful. And I'm very grateful and blessed to serve, and I'm thankful for some of the new positions, some of those people that have stepped up and taken positions of leadership in the county. We met some new ones and some that have worked here for a while, stepped into positions, and I'm grateful for their leadership. Thankful for the commissioners that I served with. In 6 years, I think this is the 5th makeup of the board, 4th, and the current board, that we are different in a lot of ways. And if you want diversity in government, you've got it right here, because we are different. But we come to most of the things that we disagree on. We don't vote on these in business. I'm thankful for the way we do that, and the way we've kept. Tried to keep a lot of those controversial things off of the board and just done business. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that I've had to serve with Ellen. We haven't agreed on everything, but she's been a good friend, and she's been solid in that friendship, and her concern for my children and grandchildren. I appreciate that, and I share that with her, and I'm grateful for the time that I've had to serve with her too. So,
It's good to see a room full, and is it warm in here, isn't it? It is.
It's the lights when you ball in.
It's actually not hotter than Hades, but it is pretty hot in here. And then I have to quit because Chairman limited me to 20 minutes, and being a good Baptist said I am. If I speak longer than that, I got to take up an offering, so we're not going to do that.
I thought I was long-winded until I started working with these folks. No, I'm thankful for a lot. First of all, for my family and for my lovely wife who put up with me for almost 40 years. Like, take it back. Lord, I hope she's not looking at this. Almost 50 years. Yeah, it's being recorded.
What's your anniversary date?
July 25th, 1970. But I am for my family, my daughters, 2 daughters, 2 grandsons, 3 grandsons, and son-in-law. So it's all great. I'm fortunate there with the family. We'll have 18 of my relatives for dinner Thursday. And the only thing I'll be fixing is running my mouth, so it's up to Shirley to go. And most of all, I think, too, I want to thank the community because I just finished up my first 2 years on the commission, and it's really been a pleasure working with the people of Buncombe County, not only in my district, but all over the county. And I think for me, it's like reacquainting myself with a lot of old friends because a lot of people in this county, former customers of mine, the 40 years I spent in banking here. So that's been a pleasure. And the county employees, I'll tell you what, 1,500 county plus employees that we have are good people, competent people, loyal, dedicated. Unfortunately, over the last few months, just one has tarnished all of us, really. But we cannot forget our employees who put every day, they put 100% plus into Buncombe County and making life good for all of us. And when we also, the commissioners here, it's been great working with them. As some have said, I've enjoyed it and will continue to enjoy it. We will miss Ellen, especially because if I say something wrong, she'll either kick me or punch me, I'll miss that part. But, and two, I want to thank the community and especially people in District 1 for giving me 4 more years on the commission to work with you. Even though some say it was a hard-fought election, it's hard for me to say that because nobody ran against me. But it has been a pleasure this last 2 years, and I look forward to the next 4.
And Ellen, before you go, I do want to, as other folks have, I do want to acknowledge that this is Commissioner Frost's last meeting with us in Buncombe County, and as folks have said, she's served the county for 6 years. So we want to express our thanks to you, Ellen, and there's going to be a reception immediately following this meeting in the conference room right out the door. And we've got some cake, and so if you'd like to stop by and say a few words of thanks to Commissioner Frost. Welcome to you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I forgot a few things in mine,
Okay, go ahead.
better known as my wife. Brenda, and my daughter, Melissa, and Christy, and my grandson, Ian. Yeah, I work hard, and I respect them, but I needed to get that in because everybody else was doing it. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. Thank everybody for bringing George to us. He's been, I understand now what a county manager is supposed to be. And that's the one thing that I've learned since I've been here. It took 6 years to get there, George. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in quickly. I thought we were doing a 2-step here, but so I certainly want to just acknowledge, and I think many people in the room are here to acknowledge and say thank you to Commissioner Ellen Frost for her years of service, and want to especially lift up some of the initiatives that she has been a visionary around, and I think just brought such extraordinary heart and compassion in her leadership around, specifically the Isaac Coleman Grants Initiative, which I see as one of the most significant bodies of work underway in our community right now. So Ellen, we wish you so much joy in this next chapter, and your presence will continue to be felt here, and I have learned a great deal from you during my first 2 years here. So I hope your heart will be full this evening, and that you will feel the appreciation and gratitude here, but also here, and in the many, many lives that have been touched by the work that you've helped lead.
It has been the greatest honor to serve this county. On a personal level, what has always driven me is my daughter and granddaughter. And they're both very privileged, and they both have been given a lot. And it was my hope to play in a small role so that everybody could be given the advantages and benefits that they have. And for this commission, somebody said in 2008 that people can come from different backgrounds, share different beliefs, but if they have a common heart, they can move things forward. And Commissioner Breyer and I don't think it's a mistake that he's on the extreme right and I'm on the extreme left. But there are many things that we agree on. We agree on the welfare of Buncombe County citizens, but we have a unique relationship that came from lots of talk, lots of disagreement, lots of agreement, but really it came from a tremendous amount of respect. He could say to me, what do you think about this? And I could say, that's crazy, I can't go for that. And he stops. And likewise, and I hope we've done that. But with everybody on this board, you know, it's just been full of conversation. I mean, we're doing something on this board that's not being done anywhere. We're doing bipartisan work. When I think of the bipartisan votes that we've had, the Family Justice Center, building 3 schools, Isaac Coleman, the Justice Resource Center, and I could go on, but these were 7-0 votes, and they didn't come by chance. They came from lots of conversation, deep understanding of issues, and lots of conversation. And everybody on this board put so much time and effort and conversation. And Joe, we started out on MSD together, and I'll still remember the big truck. But it's been a pleasure of my life, and my granddaughter is a junior in high school, and I intend to spend this next year and a half with her, enjoying her, my business, and I'm grateful for them, my family, but I have extraordinary friends that have become family, and what this commission has done through the votes they've had, it's made it so that everybody in Buncombe County is beginning to feel that they have a seat at the table, and they have a seat and speak up and come to this boardroom. When we've had full boardrooms like this, it's to advocate, yes, for libraries, yes, for equity, yes, for jobs, and I think it's incredible this place the citizens have, and I think we're so lucky to be in a community where citizens care so deeply. So keep speaking up, and thank you again. It's been a tremendous honor.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, we're going to move on. I'm going to read the ethics reminder to the board. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on any matters the board votes on this evening. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? Great. All right, next item up on our agenda is, under good news, is we would like to recognize Christy Cheek, who has served the Buncombe County Schools for many years. Ms. Cheek, if you would please join us at the podium.
proclamation honoring Christy Cheek. Whereas Christy Cheek has been employed for over 31 years as an educator with Buncombe County Schools, as a classroom teacher, career and technical education coordinator, and career and technical education director. And whereas Ms. Cheek has left a positive mark on every person and program she has worked with, including students, teachers, employers, public officials, and others. And whereas Ms. Cheek's classroom experience
of 24 years was marked by a deep love and concern to see her students grow and experience real-life business opportunities. And whereas Ms. Cheek's efforts have led to many students finding fulfilling and rewarding career and educational opportunities in our local community. And whereas Ms. Cheek has developed strong partnerships in the business community and has been able to involve employers in the students' educational experience. And whereas Ms. Cheek has been recognized throughout the state for her leadership in career and technical education, including being recognized as a national finalist to the ACTE Leadership Award. And whereas Ms. Cheek has been a passionate advocate for her students' access to the academic, technical, and workplace skills that they need to be successful. And whereas Ms. Cheek has helped tens of thousands of students experience local workplaces through Students at Work, Manufacturing Week, Manufacturing Day, AV Tech summer camps, and other efforts. And whereas Ms. Cheek has led the Student Leadership Academy at Biltmore, which has allowed thousands of students in our region to experience world-class leadership training. And whereas Ms. Cheek has developed close relationships with businesses large and small in our region, including ABL Technologies, Mission Health, Biltmore, MB Haynes Corporation, ABB, Eaton Corporation, and many others, which have resulted in a positive impact to students and educators. And whereas Ms. Cheek's professionalism and passion are contagious to all who work with her, and whereas Ms. Cheek has worked closely with elected officials at the county, state, and federal level to advocate for career and technical education to provide more opportunities for students and employers, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows. That November 30th, 2018, be and hereby be proclaimed as Christy Cheek Day in Buncombe County. That all Buncombe County citizens are encouraged to recognize the many contributions of Christy Cheek to our students, educators, schools, businesses, and community. And finally, that this proclamation be effective upon its date of adoption, which is adopted the 20th day of November 2018, signed by myself, Brownie Newman, on behalf of all the Buncombe County Commissioners.
We got one other thing, and then we're going to let Ms. Cheek come up here and say what she would like to. And we're going to try to get a picture with all the commissioners. I want to thank Taldo for doing this award. I'm going to try to get it out without tearing up the mic there. Okay, so this is our Legacy of Learning Award to Christy Cheek, Career and Technical Education Director from Buncombe County Government, 2008-2018.
So many of you know that I can't get through things without crying, so I just have to understand this. My passion, you asked what we're thankful for. I'm thankful that we had the opportunity to have students have great education in Buncombe County. I'm thankful for colleagues. I'm thankful for our board. I'm thankful for community members. I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to equalize education and know that Buncombe County students are going to receive quality education that's going to make sure our economy stays strong here in Buncombe County. What great opportunities to connect learning in the classroom with our community corporations and businesses and make it come to life. That's what education is about. It's about equalization. Thank you so much for passing early childhood education. a great start to advancement. I thank you all. We had a great bus ride. It was phenomenal. Your pictures are glowing as always. Never forget it. I have a heart of this. It's never going to go away. But I too, like you all, I have a family too. And I'm so thankful for them. I have a great superintendent. I have a great associate superintendent. I have a great board. I have a great workforce development partner that keeps me going and going and going. And Nathan has as much energy as I have. I just have to take a little pause on my energy. I thank Commissioner Belcher and Commissioner Presley, who when I call them, they ask because they give inspiration to our children. They are the future of Buncombe County, and we need to ensure that they have the right education to send them forward. They are economic vitality for this community, and we know it. So thank you all. You've been so supportive, and I so appreciate you all. I appreciate you all, and I just thank everyone because this is what learning is about. I learn and grow every day. I learn from you all, and I thank you. And so just know in my heart of hearts, it's just a wonderful place to live, go to school. We have great educators. We have great everything's right here in Buncombe County. So thank you. They're my team members. They make me work.
Next up on our agenda is a presentation on adoption awareness. And this proclamation, is it being presented by Rebecca Smith? Okay, great, thank you.
We have a PowerPoint presentation. Commissioners, thank you so much for allowing us to come and speak with you this evening. We appreciate your time. And
turn your mic on.
Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Commissioners, we appreciate your time this evening. in giving us the opportunity to come and speak with you just very briefly about Adoption Month in Buncombe County. We wanted to just present a few slides just to kind of bring everybody's attention to how important adoption is to our community, and then just celebrate some of our staff and adopted families that have come this evening to participate in this event. One of the things we wanted to just mention is that adoption is one of the permanency plans that is available to us when we work with families with children that are in our foster care system. And so I just want to acknowledge that we do a lot of work on the front end with families to try to keep children with their biological parents or their biological families whenever possible. So reunification with birth parents is always our primary permanent plan when we start working with families. Unfortunately, that option is not always an option that works out. And so we are forced to kind of start to look at other options for children, because every child deserves a forever family. Every child deserves a permanent placement with a family. And so when reunification is no longer an option, we start to look at what the best permanent plan is for that child. And adoption is really our go-to option because it's the most permanent option. And so many times these adoptions are with family members, with grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, folks that these children are connected to and have been connected to for their most of their lives. Other times these adoptions are through some of our amazing resource or foster parents that we have in this county. There are other permanency options, and we look at those options with guardianship custody when adoption is not in the best interest of the child. But as you will see on the next slide, almost half of the children that have come through our foster care system in fiscal year 2018, 43%, we identified a permanent family for them and solidified adoption for those children. At this time in Buncombe County, we have 41 children that are in the custody of Buncombe County Health and Human Services, and who are legally free for adoption. Only 13 of those 41 children are not in a permanent forever home. So the majority of the children that are free for adoption are actually already in an adoptive placement, which is really good news in my mind. But we do have 13 children that are waiting to find their forever home. And so we are doing a lot of work everyday efforts to try to find forever homes for those 13 children. I highlighted that and brought that to the attention of commissioners in the community, just to say that we do in this county have kids sitting there who are free, legally free for adoption, that do not have a forever home. And so it's a plea to say we need more homes. We need more people to step up and look at is adoption something that's right for their family.
Are those 13 children older children, or is there a typical commonality with age?
Yes. So of the 13 children, 10 are over the age of 13. And then the ones that aren't over the age of 13 are, several of them were siblings of those teenagers. So yes, that is a common theme, is that you have older children that are more difficult, it's more difficult to find a family, the right fit family for them. The remaining 28 children, like I said, are in the process of being adopted and are working with our wonderful adoption unit at this time to finalize those plans. So we just end with a slide to just highlight, like, you can do that for a kid, like just trying to get people to recognize that even if they can't think through adoption as an option for their family right now, thinking through what can you do for a child that's in the custody of our county. There are many different options, including like sponsoring for Christmas, or fostering, providing respite, being a community resource volunteer, which is an option. And we have all of that information on our website, so I just highlight that to say there's a lot that we can do for the kiddos that are in Buncombe County's custody. I'd like to finish this evening by acknowledging, recognizing our program manager over our permanency planning unit, Amber Cook, is here this evening. She is boots on the ground making this happen every day. And then we have several folks from our adoption team here and that I'd like to have stand. We have Susan Garland, who's supervisor over our adoption team, and then we have Mary Jones and Liz Harr. And they work directly with the families each and every day to finalize these adoptions and to make sure that these things happen. And then we also invited a couple of adoptive parents who I believe are here this evening. I'm not quite sure because I know there's an overflow room, but Sarah Sperling, I believe, is here, who's one of our adoptive parents. And then also Jennifer and Kurt LaRue. Not sure if they were able to make it in. Oh. So I just want to take a second and acknowledge the amazing things that and then I'm not sure if the actual proclamation, do you all have?
Yeah, so I'll read the proclamation that the county.
Turn your mic on.
I'll read the proclamation that the county will sign. November is Adoption Awareness Month. Whereas Adoption Awareness Month is celebrated to call attention to the fact that every child deserves to grow up in a loving, nurturing, permanent home, and that this experience lays the foundation for a happy, productive adulthood. And whereas in North Carolina, 8,971 children are currently in foster care, and 1,528 children were adopted in 2017. And whereas in Buncombe County, there are 353 children and 31 young adults in foster care, and 62 were adopted from July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018. Whereas during the month of November, Buncombe County Human Services, private adoption agencies, the faith community, and local advocacy groups will participate in a statewide public awareness campaign around adoption. This collaborative effort will focus greater attention on children who need permanent adoptive families and honor families who have adopted children. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows: that the month of November 2018 be proclaimed Adoption Awareness Month in Buncombe County. That all citizens, community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and others be encouraged to celebrate adoption and honor adoptive families by increasing their awareness of the issues of adoption and helping to focus attention on the need for adoptive parents and the children who are waiting for permanent homes. This proclamation will be effective upon its adoption the 20th day of November 2018, signed by myself on behalf of the Buncombe County Commission. So thank you for being here, and thank you to everyone who's working on these important issues in our community.
Thanks so much for having us.
Chairman, before we move on, just a point of personal privilege. I want to shout out to my grandson who's adopted AJ, my son and daughter-in-law adopted in childbirth, and he is a very sweet child, and we're grateful for that opportunity. And I would encourage the county and our communications department and maybe tackle the need of we got person out there that are ready for a home. Maybe we can help with that even more. So just wanted to take the opportunity.
Thank you for answering. Okay, moving on. Next item is a resolution authorizing refund of overpayment of taxes.
This is an item that comes before the commission from time to time. Whenever a deed is filed in the wrong county or in Buncombe County when it should have been filed in another county, the only way for a law firm to get their money back is to properly come before the commission and ask for a refund. That's happened in this case. I do not believe there was a representative from the Best and Best law firm, but they have submitted the proper documentation and showed that the money was properly paid to Haywood County and the deed was properly re-recorded in Haywood County after being recorded an area in Buncombe County. I would submit their documents that are attached to the resolution as proof of that, and allow that and any other testimony that the public gives to serve as the evidence for this hearing.
And this does require public hearing.
I think it does. Okay.
All right, this is for $120, just for context. It's not a big game changer, positive or negative for Buncombe County. But let's open the public hearing at 5:48. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on this item? Okay, I'm going to close it at 5:49. Is there a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the refund of overpayment of taxes in the amount of $120? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, personnel ordinance amendment on the sale of annual leave and the date for eligibility determination for longevity pay. Michael Cruz is going to present this item. This is an item that the commission has spent a fair amount of time already discussing at several recent meetings, but we're going to have a little follow-up on it right now. Yes, this is not the first time before us. So.
Not at all, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Several months ago, on recommendation of the county manager, we brought forward benefits packages. Part of that discussion turned to annual leave. And twice that annual leave question's come back before the board, and on October 16th, this board voted to limit the sale of annual leave to 4 to 1 week was the term based in the resolution, which is a 40-hour work week. We have worked to try to put that into language, and this is a public hearing on that matter. Currently, unlimited amount of whatever you've accrued, you can sell. The only rule was a minimum of 8 hours would have to be sold. That's just to prevent trying to come in and sell 1 hour on a Friday afternoon between paychecks or something of that nature. So it's always been 8 hours at minimum. Now, just to read through the recommendation for the board, is upon approval of the department director, regular employees may convert up to 40 hours of leave to cash, subject to the following conditions. The conversion is limited to a maximum of 40 hours per calendar year. A minimum of 8 annual leave hours must be sold in any one transaction. Each regular employee converting annual leave shall retain a balance after any sale of at least 40 annual leave hours. That is, leave 40 hours in the bank and not go down to zero. Any request to convert annual leave balance to cash must be made by the regular employee and approved by the department director such that the employee is paid before the end of the calendar year. Now, to afford employees some flexibility as we close out this calendar year and go into the next year, if an employee under the current policy wants to sell and spread that cash balance for tax purposes over the 2 years, we have provided that. In addition, notwithstanding the foregoing, employees may convert all current available annual leave hours to cash through and including January 18th, 2019. Part of the reason we picked that date is that January 18th is 2 weeks before February 1st, and that February 1st would be a payday. So we want to keep it in line with what's currently happening, but also part of the problem of drafting this was to take into account the limitations for dating with our new Workday finance and HR system. Workday is calendar driven, so we can't just have a random date. And we need to aim to make all our anniversary dates for these purposes of January 1st to follow a calendar year. That will save us a lot of money on the back end, because to make conversions on the custom system would cost over $10,000 each time we try to make a change. The other change before the board is currently there's an annual leave rollover to sick. If you have sick leave balance, that counts as creditable service at the time of your retirement. Each 20 days equals 1 month of sick leave by state statute for creditable service. So if a person, employee by policy and by that state law accumulates up to 2 years of annual leave, we picked a date, and that was fairly random sometime in the past. February 1st is the rollover date of that annual leave to sick leave. And now, again, for workday purposes, for that programming, to make it work more fluidly, we will ask the board to change that date to January 1st. So if this time around we have a rollover and they take advantage of this January 18th date before it happens, they will communicate with IT staff and they would make that rollover retroactive and do that manually.
We do need to have a public hearing on this. Yeah, we have talked about this quite a bit previously, but why don't we go ahead and hold a public hearing and we'll bring it back. So I'm going to open the public hearing on this at 5:53 p.m. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 5:54 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Wood, are there any other items on the county manager's report?
Can't hear you back here.
Mike,
Yeah, I'll get that. About the time I leave, I'll figure it out. What I'm used to is giving an orientation session to all the three elected officials. So I've met with our management staff here, put it in the hands of Cataldo Perron, our new communications director. And Cataldo has put together an orientation session for Mrs. Edwards. And we've run all the scheduling by her and our department heads. Basically what we will do is give them 30 to 45 minutes, in some cases an hour, hour and a half, depending on the different locations that they have. She will meet with the department head at their location, meet some of their key people, and then get a briefing on what all they do in that department. The primary reason is to let them meet, put a name, put faces with names and that sort of thing, but also just to give a good overview of that. So we hope we'll start with that on, I believe, December the 3rd, should be through by December 14th. Not every day will be there. Some days she was not able to make. We will have that scheduled out shortly. I wanted to make an open invitation. I know all of y'all have been on for some time, but if you would like to do that, or just certain components of it, where you particularly want to see a certain department, I would encourage you to do that, and we would certainly welcome your participation in that. But this is somewhat unique for Buncombe County, but it's something we think you ought to do every few years when you get new board members on. That'll be followed up by something that all of you have been through, and that is the newly elected officials school that University of North Carolina School of Government puts on. That'll be a 2-day program on January 17 and 18. The good news is that while it's taught in Chapel Hill, they always do a session in Western North Carolina, and fortunately they do that in Asheville. So we have made Mrs. Edwards aware of that, and Lamar's working with her to get her registered for that. So basically by the middle part of January, we will have given her a local orientation, and she will also have that orientation from the School of Government. So I think she'll be off to a great start. She's very enthusiastic about it, so we look forward to it. That's the main thing I wanted to talk about. And then the planning director asked me to let you know that while this will be on our meeting date, this is for the public, that the North Carolina DOT will be holding an open house and public hearing for the I-26 connector project on Tuesday, December 4th at the Renaissance Hotel in downtown Asheville. The open house will take place from 4 to 6:30 p.m. with public hearing starting at 7 p.m. And so if anybody would like to attend on that, we just wanted to make y'all aware that that is coming up. Again, we won't be able to because of our and those are the main things we have. I think at this point I'll stop. I've got a few other things that we've already gone over.
All right, thank you very much. Under old business, we have consideration of a motion to approve a resolution adopting a new procurement manual for Buncombe County. And Justin Clark and Ron Venturella from the Finance Department will present this item. Like some of the other items we've discussed tonight, this is an item the Commission has spent a fair amount of time on in recent meetings, but we want to take some action on tonight.
Thank you, Chairman and board members. So we're just back
finishing out our period of feedback and review. We've heard some comments from the board members about specifics in the manual. There really haven't been any substantive changes to the manual, so from our point of view, we're ready for you to adopt. I think there's a resolution that's been drafted. So unless there's any more feedback that you have for us tonight, I would look for you to make an action on that resolution.
When you say there's no changes, you mean there's no changes since the last time you presented it?
Correct. The draft that we provided a few weeks ago, outside of a few typos and grammatical corrections, is the same as it was then.
This is a comprehensive review of all of your purchasing policies and contracting policies. I'd just like to make a couple of comments. One is, you'll see in the adopting resolution that it makes it clear that this is adopted by resolution and can only be amended by resolution. And the second thing is it applies to everybody in Buncombe County government, from the Board of Commissioners to the manager, to every employee. So what we're doing is making it clear is you set the policy. Management cannot change the policy or ignore the policy, which is obviously some of the problem that you had in the past. But all of that is put in place as an internal control to make sure that these policies are to be followed.
All right, thank you very much. Someone like to make a motion?
I talked to Ron the other day about this, and I've looked at it, and it's 38 pages long. And then I asked him to look at the state, and it's a page long. So we're stepping overboard in my eyes. You know, we all understand that we can't go buy gift cards anymore. That's one thing that's out of the stream. You know, it's been a bad deal for quite a while now. But to put a 38-page thing together basically stating that, you know, certain people from $0 to $5,000 can do this, and then from $5,000 to $10,000, and that goes department. There's got to be a simpler way to do this, Jim. And for that reason, you know, I want to look at simple. I understand everybody in this county is probably scared for their jobs if they do something wrong with their P card. And if they go buy a gift card and give it away, then that automatically should be, you know, termination. But we have gift cards and they go through DSS, and I understand that, you know, so, but this is, in my eyes, this is just overboard. I talked to Ron about it the other day. I think he understood it. We looked at the state. It's a lot smaller. The state is for 100 counties, not for just one. And that's just basically what I'm looking at is we need to regroup and back down. We don't need 14 in a committee putting stuff together that some of us, you know, it's kind of hard to understand, or just trying to make rules that we don't know exactly what means. So that's my saying on this, and I'll probably be voting against it. Thank you.
So, question. There's a lot of, Mr. Wood, or either of you gentlemen, you like to field this, a lot of the purchasing protocols for government in North Carolina, both state agencies and then county organizations, are actually driven by the state statutes, or at least they set minimum thresholds that they have to be at least as strong as that. So, so the policies that we would put in place here, in some cases they are stronger than the state policies, right? Well, I would just say, I certainly don't think we need to make things more complicated than they need to be. But I think this is very important. I mean, kind of for obvious reasons. I mean, there has been abuse of money, and sometimes it was done in ways that violated our ordinances and our laws, but sometimes it was done, at least in part, in ways that actually were not in violation of state law. You know, there are certain contracts that county governments can enter into with individuals that never have to be, they're not based on competitive bid, because it's just based on qualifications, which frankly is highly subjective. And they don't have to be, and they can be renewed over and over and over again for long periods of time. And so I think this is very important, and I appreciate the work that went into it. This is a big organization and spends a lot of public resources. And so I think having a detailed policy on which contracts can be approved at the staff level and which ones need to be approved in an open public meeting, just makes all the sense in the world. So I'm very supportive of it.
Until I read it, when I first saw it, I thought too, why do we have 38 pages? But then after 48, 48. But after reading it, I understand why. Because we have over 1,500 employees. And we have an obligation to our employees to make everything the way we hold them responsible to be crystal clear. And I think we do it in the procurement manual. And that's one of the reasons that we are where we are now, cleaning up the mess we're cleaning up, is because we didn't do a good job in the past of spelling out, this is what you are held responsible for, this is how we do it. Because until we put it in writing, folks, what we are doing is that's when you leave it to individuals to stretch that rubber band and boom, we're back where we are when it breaks. So I think we're doing it the right way. And to have employees to put it together too is important, because we have the people who actually work with it, who do it, spelling out, how we hold people accountable. So for that reason, I could not do anything but vote for it.
I'll make a motion to approve it, and I can hear what everybody's saying, but to me, the best thing about this is, it's an employee protection act. No longer can somebody's superior tell them to do something, and this is spelled out, and they have protection. So, and thank you for and I agree about 48 pages, but I think for employees' benefit, I think it's great work. Thank you. And that was my
All right, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
So I've got this comment. I'm going to take a little bit of a different position, or maybe paint a little different picture than some of my colleagues. County Manager, I would like to ask you, from an execution of normal day of business, was there anything in here that gave you any pause that those that are out there doing daily business are going to be able to conduct it the way they have, for the last 20 years?
I think they'll be able to conduct business normally. I didn't find anything in here that's unusual compared to what I've done in other jurisdictions. I think what it does do is to say that for the larger purchases, you need to do some planning. You don't wait till the last minute and then come in and say, oh, I need a $50,000 whatever. You need to plan it, go through the normal process for procurement, and then you'll have it on time.
So thank you for that. So I do agree with the comments. I agree with my colleague Commissioner Fryer about the number of pages. 48 pages is a lot, and it's very complicated. I don't think it interrupts business. I think if it does, then we would fix it. But my different take that I was going to do is that this is not personal. This is paper. That's what this is. This is a document. And so it's not something that's directed towards individuals. It's a simple procurement policy. It addresses things from losing a receipt. How do you deal with losing a receipt? We wouldn't think we would need to put something like that in there, but it's in there, because what happens if you lose a receipt? Okay, it's in there. What happens if somebody steps out of bounds? That's in there. There's accountability in there. There's the commission approval, the commission's, being involved more, it'll take a little bit more time, and that's certainly necessary at this time. The thresholds that are in there, I think, are fine. I don't want anything to interfere with normal flow of business. That's why I asked that question. There's good. It's about audit and administration. I mean, that's what this is. It's just a simple policy manual that has been refined. And in lieu of some of the shortcomings, some of those have been fixed. And so for that reason, I'll support
All right, any members of the public who would like to comment on the motion? Mr. Hill.
I sat here and I listened to this discussion. And you know what's going through my mind? You didn't have a policy, and the board at that time couldn't catch what's going on. So now you got 48 pages to keep up to catch somebody doing something wrong. So you know who is going to make it work if it's 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, or 9,000 pages. You folks right up there. It's your responsibility to see that those 49 pages are enforced. Now, you've got a good background for this. So everybody up there needs to take a section of that budget and watch it every month. And if you put all your checks on the internet like I hope you said you were going to, it'll be very easy for you to follow the money trail. So I don't care what you say, it's up to you guys sitting up there. And I say guys and gals, because guys mean the same thing nowadays, there's no difference. I just heard today that they had just, the vagina monologue's not going to be shown anymore at the University of Virginia. You know why? Not only girls are not the only ones that have a vagina.
I wasn't going to comment on this one, but I think I will, because I think 48 pages is quite good. And I especially appreciate Commissioner Frost's comment about protection for employees. The first thing I did when I moved here to Asheville was split apart the responsibilities of the people on the staff that work at the company I was at. And the second thing I did was fire the guy in New York who was ripping the company off for $400,000 a year. That's the kind of thing this policy would protect against, because probably, I unfortunately didn't read it, but I'm assuming it defines what accounting does, it defines what procurement does, and it gives protection for employees. The other thing, we had a comment of 1,500 employees. I doubt very highly all 1,500 will have to even look at this manual. Most of the departments have a centralized purchasing. That's the person who's going to have to know it. So I totally agree with it. Go ahead and do it.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion by the commission? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yes, ma'am.
Can't hear you back here.
I'd like to thoroughly embarrass my two lights of my life, my daughter Elizabeth and my granddaughter Alexis. But thank you guys for coming.
Go ahead. Stand up, wave at it, and say, hey, I see you back there. So if y'all have been wondering why we've been getting along so well up here tonight, this is nice water. I don't know where it came from, but somebody put that up here tonight, so we're all trying to do really, really nice because we have nice, we're drinking nice water. Nice water.
All right, the motion is approved. Okay, we deferred the eligibility separation allowance item, so we come next to consideration of a motion to authorize design plan specifications and bid documents for the East Asheville Library based on the schematic design. Please do not cheer or boo anything that anybody else says in the meeting, whether you like it or hate it. Just everyone gets some chance to speak. To advertise for bids for this project, and George Wood will start us off.
Okay. And Jim's going to chime in as well. Basically, we've been working on this project for several years. And where we're at right now is we have the schematic design and it's on. The schematic design is where you show what the exterior of the building will look like. You show it on the plat of land and show the parking and everything. And then the third component of that is the interior layout or the floor plan. So that's what we have right now. And what we're about tonight is to ask you to authorize us to move forward with what's called full design, and that's where we would authorize the architect to complete the detailed plans, the foundation, plumbing, electrical, all the walls, everything. And so that it can be bid out, and they would do the plans, they would do all of the specifications, which the contractors need to bid the job. We have a construction manager at risk on this job. Clint Shepard, our Director of Facilities and Fleet Management, will be negotiating that contract. We have one with him right now for what's called the pre-construction phase, which is the design phase. So what this motion would be is for you to go forward, to authorize us to go forward with full design, plan specifications, and to develop the contract bid documents for the East Asheville Branch Library based on the schematic designs, and to authorize the construction manager at risk to advertise for bids once Clint gives you the go-ahead on that. And then what would happen after that is we would come back to you before we started construction, and you would authorize a contract with the construction manager at risk, and included in that would be the firm price based on those bids, and also based on the construction manager at risk contract that Clint will negotiate with you. So that's where we're at. I know one of the main issues has been that this has come in about $1.3 million more than an initial architectural estimation that we had. We reviewed everything. It's our opinion that we should move forward on this library. And what we're proposing is that you use $1.3 million of fund balance. As I reported to you earlier this week, we underspent last year's budget by about $4.5 million. So the money is there, and we would propose that you go forward with it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim. I believe you have some comments, and then Jim Bland.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. It's a great opportunity to be here to talk about East Asheville Library Branch. As Mr. Wood said, this has been a project that we've been working on together with the Commission and with the community for many years. And it's a pleasure to be able to bring it to see design schematic drawings and to move forward and so forth. Just to give you a little bit of background, I want to just to give you some lay of the land. This is the existing library footprint. And you see on the left, it's hard to see, but the existing, on the left-hand side, that arrow represents the existing library structure. And that's 2,700 square feet. There's a courtyard in between there, and then there is another space that used to be used for some meeting rooms, both for the library and for the community, but that space is currently leased out. This land and the buildings are owned by the city of Asheville, and we are in a lease negotiation for a long-term lease for the new area. As you'll see, there is a playground that has, it is used a lot by families and children that use both that community as well as that library, and it's been a big, if you've ever been to that library, you've seen no doubt that it's almost always full. It has the 5th highest circulation numbers of our 13 branches that we have in the county. It is the 3rd smallest that we have at 2,700 square feet. So it's a very well-used and very active branch library. This is the footprint of the new library. It's taking the exact same picture and looking at it differently. You'll see near the clock, that's the existing space where the fire department is, East Asheville Fire Department is, new parking, and then the layout of the new library. And that's in compliance with the zoning of the city of Asheville, and we're working very closely with the planning department and the zoning department of the city of Asheville to assure that everything that we're doing meets the requirements for there and is also in keeping with the community. You'll see here that it does provide library space and lots of open space and lots of programming space to allow for not only meeting space for the community, but for an intense improvement and increase in the amount of programs that we're able to show. And Jim Blanton, our new library director, is going to come up in just a minute and talk more about that after we see these pictures as we go through here. So, if I can get them to move to the next slide. There we go. This is a schematic of what it looks like, what it will look like. And I would just like to say that this is not something that we just came up with. This has been a community effort. At the last meeting that we had where we looked to the community to help us decide, is this the best location for this branch? At that time, we decided, with the community's input, to have an East Asheville Design Committee. And so there are members of that design committee here tonight. If you just raise your hand to let folks know that you're here. And what that design committee did was not only to help us in looking at space from a programmatic perspective, but also to make sure that the design that we're putting forward is reflective of the East Asheville community and is also reflective of the type of construction and design that's there. And as you'll see, as we move forward here, there's lots of brick, there's lots of glass, which is a more contemporary feel, but there's also a more of a bungalow ranch type design, which is in character with the houses and the community there, especially where the library is located. So we're just going through the different views of the library. This is the view right looking at Avon Street, if you're familiar with that, when you turn left off of Tunnel Road and the East Asheville, it is now the current entrance to the library. This is that road that passes there. This is looking back from what will be the playground, looking at the area, and where you're looking is a children's activity room and children's programming area. So one of the things that the community really wanted was to be able to have an inside-outside feel so that when parents are in there with their children, they have the ability to look both inside and work with their children in a learning activity, but also to look at their children outside playing. Just another view, and I would point out the red figure there is it was very important for the people in the community to know that the Japanese red maple that was there was preserved. Grateful that we're able to do that, and I think it will hold a place of prominence there. Again, just showing more of what the roof design is. If you look in the upper part, that's the existing fire department. And we have, as I said, worked very closely with the city to assure that all the fire department needs are met, that there's no disruption to the fire department as well. So, as Mr. Wood said, this is the specific request that we're asking you tonight to do, to approve moving forward with full design, plans, specifications, and construction documents based on the schematic design for the East Asheville Branch Library on the existing site, and to authorize soliciting bids by the construction manager at risk. If I could, just take just a moment and introduce Jim Blanton, who is our new director of our library system. Jim comes to us as the director from the Louisville Free Public Library in Louisville, Kentucky. He's had a lot of experience both in the library system, but also in construction of new libraries, and has worked from a national perspective at looking what a library should be and what it can be. And I'd like for Jim to just talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Blanton. Thank you. And I just want to say how thankful I am and excited I am to be here. And I also have to say, thanks to the community supporters who are here tonight. I just hope every meeting is like this. This is the best way to start out. But cheers, it's wonderful. Like Jim said, I have had experience in building. The past 3 years of my life have been immersed in building, design, and construction. And he called me shortly before I arrived here and said, be ready to hit the ground running. And he wasn't kidding. He showed me the plans and the designs right away, and I was just so thrilled that this project was imminent. And so I had a chance to review those and also meet with the design team and talk a little bit about them. And I think what Jim was interested in hearing that was my perspective on, are the plans on target with what we would expect in a library for this community? And I think the answer to that is yes. when you look at libraries moving forward, they're really hubs of lifelong learning and community engagement, so you want certain programmatic elements to be incorporated in those. And this floor plan incorporates everything I would expect to see in a footprint that I would also expect for a community this size. It has programming space, which is really important. Obviously, I remember before I actually interviewed for the job, I toured the system, and this library stuck out in particular because it was so busy when I was there. In fact, they were having a children's program that day, and there was a sign up saying, beware, there's going to be noisy children in here. And so you really want to dedicate space so that those kinds of activities can take place, while other functions can take place too. And I think that this design definitely checks that box. There's a large community programming space, and there's also an area in the children's area as well for activities. You also have a dedicated teen area, which also is important to serve that group as well. And then you have a really nice sized area for adult collections. There's also a cafe built into this design, which is interesting, and we were working on a cafe in a library I was building just before I left Louisville, and we'll certainly look at that closely as we move forward with the design. But that kind of speaks to that, bringing the community in, have a really exciting experience when you come in that encourages you to stay and enjoy the space, not just come in, check out a book and go, but really to be there and engage and learn on site. So I'm excited by the design. I'm also excited by the fact that the community was so engaged in the process for developing the building, particularly making sure that it reflects the community of which it is a part. It's contemporary, but it also reflects the look and feel of the neighborhood as well. So I mean, I couldn't be more excited to be a part of the project, and I'm looking forward to talking with the design team more and kind of fleshing out what happens inside the building as well as outside. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Just again, excited to be here. Thank you for. All right.
I'd like to comment and say thank Tim for an extraordinary effort of community collaboration, and also personally thank you for all the mentorship you've given me and the things that we've been putting together. And this is long overdue to the community. Joe and I when we first got on the commission 6 years ago, this library was on the capital plan, and I thank the community for being patient, urgent, and sometimes pushy, because that's what it took to keep getting everybody's attention. Libraries are easy things we put in the back burner, and we've just been too used. It's just a great effort, and I'm really excited that I'm here to vote for
We'll let that go, but it's here. All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Are there other comments that any commissioners want to make before we close it?
Just briefly, I'd like to just say big thank you to the many community leaders and the many members of library staff who've had a hand in getting to this stage of the process. This is one of the branch libraries that I get to visit and spend a lot of time in the children's section there, and I love the current version of it, but cannot wait for the new and expanded version of programming. And just really, one thing that I think is so striking about libraries and kind of speaks to something that Ellen said earlier in the evening is that this is one of the places where so many different kinds of people in our community are in the same space under one roof. And libraries kind of bring our community together in unique ways. And I think that's just one more reason why they're so important, and it's enough space to accommodate the demand that's obviously there. So thank you all for the great passion that's gone into this. And I'm just so excited for this project to be formally moving forward.
And Ron,
Yes, sir.
before I make comments, I'd like to make a second. Nobody did. We don't
Okay.
make a second.
Thank you. Who made the original motion? Okay, Ellen did. Thank you.
Nobody said
Thank you for seconding.
What I would like to say is that I'm glad to see, because when I started working early on in banking in the late 70s, my first branch was at East Asheville, which is where SunTrust is now, the first union. And I would visit the library some to read the Wall Street Journal. And even back then, the library was busy. So we come forward today. And I want to see us go ahead and get it approved, because when you all started working on the library, my hair was black. And if we don't move ahead with it, I might look like Joe. Yeah, but I really think it's long overdue to the community. and thank all of you, staff, and most of all, residents of East Asheville who worked on this. And I know you all have worked on this for a number of years, and it's long overdue, and it's time for us to complete it.
Any other commissioners wish to comment?
No, I'm just ready to go. This is long overdue, and it's, well, the hundreds of emails I got, they just, and that just shows the concern. Yeah, hundreds, not hundreds, hundreds. And I'm ready to go forward with this.
So I got a couple of comments, like Commissioner Frost mentioned, I went out there a long time ago, and I do want to comment. I know that Chairman Newman has went to numerous meetings in East Asheville, and I know he's been a fixture out there among the unions. But I want, with the addition of our new library director, and we've got a couple of things that I believe are, historic's not the right word, but maybe showing a change of direction in Buncombe County might be more restrictive. But we recently received one of the largest grants, maybe the largest grant, from the Tourism Board for expansion of the Buncombe County Sports Park, construction of the Inca Heritage Educational Trail, and I put these two together. The expansion of the East Asheville Library, work being done on the Inca Library. We have priorities, about, opioid reduction, taking care of children in poor communities, and both of those are going to move forward, meeting some of those goals. I do think the building did end up more than what we thought of, but the longer we put it off, the more expensive it's going to be.
Amen.
And I mean, unfortunately, that's the world that we're in. I have mentioned to our new director, and that one of the fixtures in a lot of communities are asking for community space. I do want to make sure that we effectively measure that. Going forward, the YMCA, other places are doing those things. We want to make sure that we're effectively measuring that, so that if we're using that space, that's great. If not, it may be part of it may be needed for children programming. But I'm confident with your experience that you're going to do that and do it in the best interest of the community. But I'm excited about this moving forward, and as well as some of the direction of some of the recreational needs of our families in Buncombe County.
All right, we will take public comment in just a minute. I will just share my comments on this too. I think it has been a great process. The community's been just, not just doing a great job advocating for the need for a project, but just really creative, constructive input of what that project should look like. And I think it's resulted in a great, what's going to be a great project. And so I'm excited about it. It's going to be a great community space in addition to some of the more traditional functions of our library system. So it's going to be great for those neighborhoods. And really, that whole part of the county, it's going to be really kind of a regional facility in a lot of ways. So I'm very excited about it, and I look forward to seeing it open in the near future. So we will take public comment. I think that a lot of folks have commented. So I think this is going to go forward, but we will open for public comment. Yes, sir.
I'm ready to do this. George has explained to us that we finally have a little bit of money that we can put forward. Yes, it's $1.3 million over from where it was, but it's time to do it because things are not going to get cheaper. Construction around here now, finding somebody to do the construction is probably going to be the hardest part. So Clint's going to do the job through this, and I'm for it. And then, as Brownie said, the public can speak, but I think you're looking at 7 commissioners at the present time that are 100% behind this. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Chilson. I'm a teacher and educational program coordinator at Biltmore. I come from a family of writers and readers. I am one of 7 children, and I have a sister who is a librarian. And when there were only 4 children left at home, my mother decided that she had too much time on her hands, so she became a middle school librarian for the next 25 years. So libraries are very close to my heart. When I moved to Asheville from the Adirondack Mountains 11 years ago, the first thing I did was get my library card and join the East Asheville Book Club. And we have over 25 members in our book club, which is a wonderful thing, but if we all come at the same time, it is a very big crunch. We meet in the children's section of the library. We sit on child-sized chairs around a small table. When a child wants a book, she has to squeeze in among us to reach it. Occasionally, we have a local author come and tell us about his latest work. We can fit 30 chairs in only by pushing all the tables to one side. I would like you to think of this new space not as a library with a variety of dedicated rooms, but as a community space. We live in divisive times. It would be great if we could build a building that promoted togetherness, that really strengthened our community. I'd like you to imagine a multi-use building where a mother can bring her preschoolers to listen to a book about Curious George at story time. Then they will go to the maker's room to create monkey puppets. Then they will run outside to become monkeys on the playground swings. At the same time, in one of the small community rooms, there is a lecture about collecting wild edible mushrooms. In another community room, there was a presentation by an Asheville artist. Local veterans have come to use the computers to check their email and read the paper. A group of seniors have come to have tea in the cafe before they spend a couple of hours reading by the sunny library windows. Some middle school students are meeting in one of the study rooms to go over a class project. In the evening, those small community rooms will become one large room for a contra dance, a concert, a book club meeting, a meeting about the local bear problem, a talk by a local author. This new library will last a long time, perhaps 50 years. Asheville is a growing city. Let's not get 10 years down the road and discover that we need more space because we have cut corners now.
Thank you, your time's up.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, please don't applaud. Yes, sir.
Thank you and good evening. I'm a resident of Haw Creek and also I come out of the construction area. Now, what you're approving tonight, as I understand it, is to go to the stage of putting out an RFP on an actual, so you can go and solicit bids for the actual building of the library. Design is the exciting part. It's really fun. You put it together, lots of color, lots of items going up. Getting it done is the hard part. And we've recently had a diversion of funds from that were specified out of tax dollars that was going to go to a specific project. And they were taken away from that project and put into the general fund. I'm just bringing up the item of not what you're approving tonight, but farther down the road when we get to the point of do we have the money to construct what we've designed. And so I'm asking that be taken into consideration seriously, because it would leave us with what we have now if the money is not there to make it happen after you've designed it and put it out for bid. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leva Palladino, and I'm 14 and I attend Evergreen Community Charter School. I've been going to this library for about a decade. I'm a card-carrying member of it, and this would open up so much more opportunity. This library is great on its own. You know, it's very tight, close-knit or whatever, and like we get to, you know, be around each other more, but if we had more spaces, like, you know, a conference room or whatever, where we could have meetings and not just have to go to the church to hold these meetings and be able to talk with one another, like they said before, it wouldn't just be a library, it would be a community center. I mean, there'd be more spaces for people my age to come and study and work together on projects and stuff. It would just be more, like, just better, I guess. And, like, there's this little aisle in the young adult section, and it's super, super small. And, like, if you have to look through a book, you have to, like, squat down or whatever. And somebody might have to come by you and say, excuse me, can I get around you? And obviously there's nothing wrong with having to stand up and move out of somebody's way. But, like, you know, it'd just be nice to have, you know, spot where you don't have to get out of somebody's way or be in somebody's way, and you could look at all of these wonderful books and just really get to just see what your options are and not just, you know, just that little corner or whatever. So I want to thank you in advance for this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Who else? Minutes? Mr. Gill. You'll do next, Mr. Gill. Come on.
Thank you for your commitment and your consideration of this vital change of life in East Asheville, for its many neighborhoods from Kenilworth to Chuns Cove. You know you've run out of space when people my size have to reach up here to get a book off the top shelf. You've run out of space when the Library Friends Board meets in the 8x10 alcove they mentioned earlier, the children's area, while parents reach around you to pull off books for their children. You've run out of space when you stick a 6-foot table in the middle of where people pass right beside you to go to the computer 6 feet away, or to get the will call books or the history collection or the magazines or the newspapers. And yet, there's a sign on that table that says, quiet study space. Completed in 1966, East Asheville Library is 53 plus years old. It is old, it has shrunk. The city was allowed to take half the space for an office, which has shut out many neighborhoods of any meeting space were it not for the grace of our community churches. Its outdoor toilets make it a laughing stock. Its parking spaces are extremely limited, and about half are now illegal. The building is unwelcoming and certainly unbecoming to some of Asheville's most special and attractive neighborhoods. We're grateful that you've hired this exciting new leader, and we look forward to working with him. But now give him something to work with, as you sound like you're going to, and we're just so excited about that. The building and the upgrades and the whole system expand the future of county income tax. Ashevilleans are an intelligent lot, and they need books, new books, and not on 7-foot shelving, DVDs and stimulating programs, and places where they can communicate with each other and build that community. We'll do our part, and we believe, obviously, it sounds like you're going to do yours, and we are so grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have a serious question, Brownie. As I look at that building, I see a lot of roof area. Is the orientation, and could that roof be modified for solar energy? There's a lot of space there, and there's not a lot of trees, I don't think, around that area. I don't know, but that's something I would like to see checked out before you do the final design. That's something an architect or engineer can check real quick with you, because you can give the details that's needed for the angle. And that would help offset the cost of the maintenance of the library. Now, speaking of the maintenance of the library, I'm very glad to meet the new director of the library, and I hope he and the 7 commissioners up there get just as much of a burn in your heart
for finding out how much it costs to run each library. I asked that question of the previous generation, and even the previous generation agreed that that was a wonderful question. And we do not know what it costs to run each library. That is part of the problem of not being able to address the needs of the library. And thank you, this one's ranked number 5. And I've looked at the book usage. So I think this is something you need to get a burr under your saddle for. You need your new director to lay out a plan where he's going to allocate maintenance cost. He can allocate everything that's done to each library. And then each community can know what kind of money is going to their community. And if it costs $5 million to build this, guess what? It does. But you can't know what you got if you don't know what you're doing.
Thank you. Bryce? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I think we need to look at this thing a little bigger, a little better. It's been talked about for years about our public libraries, and the expense of this is on the taxpayer's back, and it's in the current expense money in the operation of it. We need to be looking at the school buildings that have the libraries in them and see how we can have a community. We've already got community schools in the community, in the district. So why can we not look at the libraries within the school building, which is being shrunk in many ways because of not much use as they should be? Why don't we look at that? I mean, building these buildings are getting more expensive, and yes, you do have community. But what about the community in each of our school districts? So I'd like for somebody to follow up with that, because it's been talked about, it's been great ideas in the past, but nobody has followed through on the commission to make sure that happens. So my tax money, I'd like to see it took care of in a way that why should we be paying for these libraries at school and not getting the full benefit of the community out of it? Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to comment before we go to this?
No.
Yes, sir.
I've made it a point to go to the library board meetings, and this past Thursday, the discussion at the library board meeting was that all we had was a floor plan, and then I see this wonderful drawing that's really spectacular. I love all the lighting, all the natural light that we're doing into the building. So it's a totally different meeting here than what I expected. I'm very pleased with that. I'd just like to know what the total building cost is going to be. I've heard that it's 1.3 million more than what we expected. So it'd just be nice to know. Back in 2015, we had allocated $3 million each for an east expansion and an Anchor Candor expansion. In 2016, the Anchor Candor went down to $520,000. So I'm just wondering also, Anchor Candor is under construction right now, and I'd like to, Commissioner Belcher's comment about the park over there and the $6 million. Do we know what's going on at Anchor Candor? Do we have final drawings? Do we have the community involvement that we obviously had here for East? Those are just questions I have for that library as well. And I'm just very happy to see we are having the expansion. And once again, I agree with Commissioner Frost that far too often the libraries get put on the back burner. We had a library commission years ago where 3.5 cents of our taxes went to that library commission. That was the time period where we had over $9 million in the cultural and recreation budget, and today we're down to $7 million. So let's see what we can do to pick that back up. Thank you.
All right, we're going to bring it back to the commission for further discussion. There is a motion and a second to authorize full design plans, specifications, and contract bid documents for the East Asheville Branch Library based on the schematic design, and to authorize the CMAR to advertise for bids. There's a motion and a second. Further discussion from the board.
Just got a couple comments, that, for our library director, annual report or quarterly reporting or something that answers some of the questions, probably not a bad idea. And the question about Inca Canada Library, we actually talked about that, and that's moving forward for those comments. I'm happy to support the motion.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's great.
Have a room empty. Had a man, hello.
We're gonna keep on going, so please try to keep your voice down as we're gonna keep going to the next agenda item. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a motion to approve a resolution adopting a new personnel position classification and pay plan. And George is gonna start us off on this side.
How many people?
I may not be a hungry day.
You think that many?
Well, close to. But you get yours.
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to read a little bit from the memo that I gave you. Just to remind you, the county did enter into a contract with Evergreen Solutions LLC in January of 2018 to conduct a personnel classification and pay study for all Buncombe County employees. We had that consultant make a presentation to you in August on the methodology used to perform the study. And the consultant is Ms. Nancy Berkeley. She's sitting next to Margaret, so she is here tonight. Not to make a presentation because she pretty much made that to you in August, but if you have any questions between she and I and Margaret, we'll be happy to answer those. So enclosed is a copy of the full study, which details the counties and cities of North Carolina that were used as benchmarks to compare salary and wage levels. Please note also that Mission Health, Mayheck, and UNC Asheville were also included. The complete list is on page 4.2 of the study, 4-2. The study of comparable governments and the other three showed that the minimum, in other words, the beginning step of each grade, in Buncombe County salaries and wages averaged 9% higher. Please note that this comparison was made after adjusting for the relative cost of living in each jurisdiction. So the higher cost of living in Buncombe County relative to a number of those other counties already has been factored in. The midpoint for salaries and wages averaged 5.1% higher, and the maximum point for them averaged 2.7% higher than the comparable entities. While that is on average, there are some specific positions that were determined to be lower than the market, and the plan calls for them to be taken to a higher grade. There are 92 employees in this category, and the resulting cost to the county will be $117,450. That's to get them onto the plan. It'll actually be a little higher because of fringe benefits that are tied to salary. The study recommends to keep the plan current with changing market conditions that the Human Resources Department conduct small-scale salary surveys as needed for hard-to-fill positions or those experiencing above-average turnover. And this is standard practice, so if we go through the ensuing years, if you start having a turnover problem in a specific area, you're probably below market, and you need to do a study on that specific job classification. It can also be where you have hard-to-fill positions. You may not be compensating enough to attract adequate candidates for that. They then recommend that you conduct a new pay plan every 3 to 5 years. In my experience, every 5 years is sufficient if you conduct the small-scale surveys recommended above. So you would put the new pay plan in, you go 4 years, and then you have another pay plan done. During those 4 years, your HR director would be studying the turnover problems, your department heads would be reporting where they're having issues, and then you would do those small-scale surveys to keep it current. It's important to note that these pay studies cost nearly $75,000. So you want to do them in a timely manner, but you don't want to do them before you have to do them because of the cost. So the recommendation is to place every employee within the appropriate grade at least 4.5% higher than the minimum point. And the reason for that is that newly hired employees and those that are promoted to new positions are eligible for up to a 4.5% increase when they successfully complete a 6-month probationary period. So you do not want them making more money than current employees. So your current employees have to be at least 4.5% into that grade. As part of the classification and pay study, Evergreen has developed new job or position descriptions. Customary practice is to adopt those administratively, so the Board of Commissioners does not have to approve minor changes to those, and that's what we're recommending to you, is that we will do those administratively. However, to assure that the plan remains intact, the adopting resolution calls for any job description changes sought by a department head to be approved by both the Human Resources Director and the County Manager. So there is a review process for this. In order to maintain the plan's integrity, no one can change a position title or the assigned grade or add a new position to the plan without a written resolution approved by the Board of Commissioners. That assures that you as the governing body know any changes beforehand and have approved them. For example, if staff requested a change in assigned grade from a position from grade 75 to grade 77, you should be given a cover memo explaining the reason and the resolution for adoption by you that specifically authorizes the grade change. This is an internal control mechanism that needs to be followed, and the adopting resolution contains that provision. The resolution also calls for the HR director to maintain a current copy of the plan and the copies of all resolutions where changes have been authorized. This is standard practice as well. Finally, the study and our review of it by the interim HR director and team has taken longer than expected as we sent it back to our department head for one additional review with the interim HR director. Given that, I'm recommending, and the adopting resolution calls for any pay adjustments to be made retroactive to July 1, 2018, the beginning of the fiscal year. That way, no employee will have been adversely affected by the delay in getting this adopted. This plan allows the flexibility by using minimum and maximum points on a pay grade to allow either annual cost of living adjustments, which is what you use now, and or merit increases based on job performance evaluations. The county currently does not use performance evaluations in all of our departments. I highly recommend that your new HR director develop a performance evaluation system as soon as possible. In the meantime, you would need to continue to use COLAs on an annual basis. The COLAs can either adjust the minimum, midpoint, and maximums on each pay grade, or alternatively, they can be used to move people further along within the grade. This flexibility would allow you to give different COLA percentages to different classifications, such as your lower paid personnel. And that's something that several of you have commented on, So if you want to do that, you don't want to adjust the grade, every grade on there by 2%. What you want to do is move people within the existing grade by whatever percentage you're going to give them. Is everybody?
How would we do that? How do we execute that?
Well, basically what it would take is, we would do some analysis for you. You give us some idea where you want the cutoff point, on which grade you want as the cutoff point, and every grade there and below will get a higher COLA than what other people get.
So, I mean, the discussion that I've been hearing is that if someone's receiving.
Can't hear you back here, Joe.
If somebody's receiving 2% that makes 30,000, you know, that someone that's making 130,000 might not need to receive 2%. And so my question is, can staff put together that kind of some recommendations on how we can, I don't think we need to randomly try to pick, you know, what that looks like. I think we need to see some models on how that could look in the future. So if I'm going to support this tonight, I'd kind of like to see if we can get some direction later. I may be getting ahead of myself.
Well, changes to COLA are not part of this recommendation.
No, they're not. All I wanted to do was to explain to you that this plan has a lot of flexibility. It gives you a lot of options on how you go about adjusting pay in the future. You already have your automatic code, which will kick in on April 1. So you have that. I guess, Commissioner Belcher, my suggestion. It's on. My suggestion is that you look at, if you were going to do anything like that, as part of your next budget, because they're already going to get increased in April. Well, that'll give you time also, is you're getting ready to hire a new manager, hopefully in January, February. They in turn are going to turn around and hire a new HR director. And that will give them time to formulate where they would like to go and recommend to you some of these options.
Yeah, I just don't, I want to make sure that we don't lose that conversation, that somebody's working on it, you know, the commission is talking.
Well, and that's why I included it in the memo, because I wanted y'all to be aware that the way you would go about doing the differentials on COLAs would be, do not change the grades across the board, but move people within the existing grade. And what that does, it just moves them further along in the grading area.
Right, and you know, your lower grades are lower numbers. Your higher grades are usually the higher numbers. That's the way it works out.
For the plan, and reading it in the different, where it starts, I think, with, I made notes on this. Job grade 54. Now, my question is, what, and I've heard a lot of different answers, what is the living wage in Buncombe County?
I think y'all been using $13 or $13.50.
Well, why would we have job grade 54, 55, 56, and 57? The minimum in those grades, if I figured it right, is below $13.
Well, remember, this was not geared for the living wage. This was geared to market conditions. So that would be a choice for y'all to make if you want to pay above what the market condition is. What this is compared to what other jurisdictions are paying for comparable jobs. So that's the job market. If you, as a public policy, want to pay above that and say we want to have a living wage, you can certainly do that. But I just wanted you to understand that there's nothing incorrect about the plan. It was geared to determine market.
Well, the reason I say that is we're requiring new businesses coming in and pushing, you know, as a living wage from the county for everybody to pay that, and we're not setting the example. I have a problem.
Well, those new industries, they're paying those wages because they have to get the caliber of employee with the skills that they have. No, let me finish. Well,
We talked for years about being living wage employers. So, and not to interrupt, but when I see this, I realize it's been a sham because we're not living wage employers across the board. And we have some employees that are working for Buncombe County through these salaries to qualify for systems. And I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that's what Mr. Lakeman is talking about.
Well, I understand that, and what I'm saying is, if you want to take these up, you can do that. Okay, but this study was to determine the market. So if that's what you want to do, that's fine, you can certainly do that. The offset of that is that you're also, I just want to say this for the record, you're subject to the criticism that you're overpaying for those jobs relative to the job market.
Well, I think we should look at that, because I believe we do have a policy that, I think it was adopted when I was on the commission. So we should look at that and confirm what the current rate is considered to be. There's a group that works on this, and I think we've always followed their analysis on that with the Just Economics Organization that looks at some of those statistics. So we should look at it and look at our policy, and if there's some classifications that are below that, we should follow up with that. It doesn't look like it's.
Adopt this tonight, subject to, let us bring back to you, and you can correct those.
The insurance factors into that.
It does. I believe unless they changed the way they look at it recently, the Just Economics has always said there's sort of two numbers. One is living wage, if the physician has insurance, and if the physician doesn't have insurance.
Yeah,
So
we have those numbers.
we do have some.
I think Al, the Economic Development Council has those numbers. We use that in looking at those. So we can certainly review that. We'll have that back to you when you see that.
Thank you. Good questions. Any other questions? Or is there a motion? Are we ready to make a motion?
Second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve the resolution adopting a new personnel position classification and pay plan. That is with the understanding we're going to look at some of the lower paid positions, make sure it's also consistent with the county's living wage policy. So we'll revisit that, make sure that we're also following that policy. Further discussion?
Just a question, sort of a process question, would we need to capture that intention in the language of the resolution? Or is it?
He put it in.
It's already policy.
Well, you've already landed on the motion. So it'll be in the minutes that you approve the subject to that. We'll be back to you in 2 weeks.
And if we need to do any tweaks, we can follow. All right.
You've done a good job.
Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on the motion? Sir.
I'm one of those people that's a little bit anal, I kind of look at details. Oh, by the way, MIT says it's 1182 for our living wage.
Sir, excuse me, could you share your name and where you're
Tim
from?
Lars.
I forgot to ask that earlier. Thank you.
One of the things I noticed was the library department seems to be lacking in the Exhibit 4D analysis. We only have 2 levels in there, the top director, the bottom pages. There's nothing, and I read that it was based upon an analysis looking at like job titles. And that's where I think we might have a problem. I looked at Mecklenburg County, which I was able to access through the Charlotte Observer's website. And I found out that Mecklenburg, which has a cost of living of 110.6 compared to our 114.3, has 33 managers in the library. By the way, they're 3 times our size. 33 managers averaging $74,000, 3 supervisors averaging $57,000, and 71 librarians averaging $56,000. Oh, by the way, the BLS number for librarians in North Carolina with .943, cost of living is 50,000, so that's about right. Buncombe County has no managers. They have no supervisors. The number 2 highest salary in our library system is $57,000. That's below the librarians in Mecklenburg. That means roughly 107 of their employees make more than our number 2. Divided by 3, 33 make more than our number 2. Our librarian managers are called librarian ones. They're not called library managers, so you can't do a comparison. They make around $44,000. That's far less than Mecklenburg. They have all the responsibilities of building, staff, program, collection, and they're making $70,000 or $30,000 less than Mecklenburg. Our library members that handle children's programs and adult programs are called, well, they're going to be called library specialists. They average $33,000. A librarian, which is what they should be called, in Mecklenburg is at $57,000. We have 30 managers in other departments in Buncombe. We have 43 supervisors. The third largest department has none. I think that there's a title issue going on here, and maybe we should be looking at job descriptions and the titles, as well as what people are paid. I'm running out of time here, so I'll just stop right there. It just looks like there's an issue.
All right, thank you for your comments. Any comments? All right, bring it back to the floor. We've got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Take 2 minutes.
We're pretty close.
Are you sure?
Pretty close.
All right.
Our fate is in our own hands.
Yeah, I won't take it.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is consideration of a policy to require a public comment period at the beginning of each meeting held by one of our public boards and commissions. And so this is just a discussion item for the board. There was a question raised by an engaged citizen in our community around the fact that there's not a public comment period, at least by formal policy at our different boards and commission meetings. So I thought it was a fair question for us to discuss whether or not we want to create such a policy. And just to kind of share my thoughts on this, I don't think we necessarily need to have the same public comment procedures we have for our formal county commissioner meetings, but I think we all agree public comment's valuable, and folks take the time to go to one of these citizen public meetings. There's a good idea to give them a chance to share their thoughts. So I guess my question to the board is whether or not we might want to create a policy such that at the beginning of a public meeting, or commission meeting, we should have a 3-minute public comment period, and then also at the end of the meeting, another public comment period. So basically, folks come, they could share their thoughts about items on the agenda, and then at the end of the meeting, if they want to share any thoughts about, hey, the public business that's been transacted, if they want to share their thoughts on it, they can do that. So that's one way we could do it, but certainly open to other ideas. Any thoughts from commissioners who might want to comment? And my sense is that we don't have to vote on this tonight, but if there's an apparent approach that the commission likes, then we could write that up and vote on it at a subsequent meeting.
Honestly, you have different boards, and I know we're probably open on people, but we need to let these boards, they're kind of be open themselves. That was interfered without it. We've done what we've done. Give them an idea to do what they want. Somebody come up with some ideas. Board members, the boards, they want to come to us and discuss it. So this is 7 minutes, and this is what you're looking at.
I support adding a public comment period and just having that be a general policy across boards. kind of creates another channel, another way for folks to show up and express their opinions and engage, and creates more opportunity for those community connections. So how often that will be utilized, time will tell, but I think having that built in is an important feature of any public meeting.
Apologize, I was going to forget. So how long, this is for individual boards, how long are they going to have to talk?
So my suggestion was at the beginning of each board or commission meeting, there'd be an opportunity for public comment, 3 minutes, no longer than 3 minutes. And then at the end of the meeting, there would be another opportunity for public comment, up to 3 minutes. But that the boards and commissions wouldn't be required, in all the individual decisions they make throughout the meeting to, continuously take public comment in the same way we do here. But so basically, kind of there's a window at the beginning and the end of the meeting where folks who attend could share their ideas.
So you're basically adding public comment to the beginning?
And the end. But we also have throughout our meetings on any decisions that we make. Not for us.
No, yeah, for boards and commissions.
Okay, I'm on the same page now.
And I think we need to do, it's good for transparency. And any boards or commission that we have, let's face it, any taxpayer or any person who lives in the county should be able to voice their opinion. And I've heard from several people about 2 of our boards that they wish they could, voice their opinion during the meeting, things that's going on. But I think it's only, in the true sense of transparency.
So what boards aren't allowing public comment?
HHS goes for public comment.
I don't think the library board does.
You may be right, but I haven't, I don't think I've been to a board meeting where they haven't had public comment.
Some do and some don't. Yeah. We need to be consistent with that.
Can we require that they have public comment?
We create the boards.
So say yes.
I would think so. Mr. Fruit?
The requirement centers on whether or not it's a public body. For instance, if you asked George and Jim and I to look into something or have a meeting, we're by definition not a public body, or will require public comment. If you're talking about boards and commissions that this board appoints, then yes, I could see that you could put in a general requirement for public comment, just for that outlet, but not more strict than what this board would have itself, which would be one public comment per month at board meetings. And also remember that I think some flexibility might be in order in terms of what kind of parameters might be appropriate for any given board. Some boards, as long as you have one side or the other have opportunity, then you're okay. If you have 100 people here against an item and one person for, you don't have to give the one person half an hour, the other people half an hour. It could be 2 minutes each before or at the end of the meeting. So there are a number of ways to do it. I would just suggest some flexibility. The only boards that we require public comment for now are the planning board and board of adjustment, and that's what it's really about.
I think as long as strict guidelines are alive, because, they're voluntary reports, we can have the tools to themselves and keep
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that these are volunteer boards. And, I don't know, I don't want to do anything that's going to make it harder to get people to serve on it. Do we really think we need public comment at every board, every time?
If somebody bothers to go, why shouldn't they be allowed to share their 2 cents? I guess is my question. Why would it make sense to exclude any board from that basic idea?
I don't think we should exclude them. require and how do we do that? Thinking logistics.
Well, that's probably what they say.
We're not voting on this, so there will be no public comment on this, I think. But we do have public comment, we are going to have public comment on, at the end of this meeting. So anybody who, we're not voting on this, but there will be public comment, and so you can certainly speak to this issue on during that public comment.
I can share. Would you guys sit on NPO, and there's a public comment period at the beginning? In the end, yeah. And I think it functions really well, and as is the case here, it's it's another way for people to share what's on their mind. And it also helps to kind of raise that flag around where some issues really touch people's lives closely, or there's a lot at stake around certain issues, and it's one of the ways we make sure we sort of have an understanding of that. So just Joe, to hope to assuage some of your concerns, it typically moves pretty swiftly, and people respect the time limits, and I've never seen it go off the rails. So I think it can be done really well.
I mean, I was at Sandy Mush, the board meeting with Sandy Mush last week, and they had public comment at the end. And so, my question is that it's a motion to create a policy to require public comment period at the beginning of each meeting. And do you do it at the beginning, do you do it at the end, or should we, is there a better way to achieve it? Should we send something to them and tell them that we encourage them to do that, or see who's not doing it? Rather than creating a policy that requires them to do it, because I haven't been the one that isn't doing it. And that just happens.
Well, yeah, this is just kind of the, yeah.
Just as a point to make sure that whatever policy you put into place, to make sure that if you do allow public comment, not all of the boards that you appoint are policy-making boards. So, for example, Health and Human Services and the Library Board do not set policy. So I wouldn't want the public to not avail themselves of this platform as well, thinking that what they were establishing with the Health and Human Services Board or the Library Board was establishing policy. You're still the one that would establish a policy, and they're both of those boards are advisory. The Library Board only has the ability to set fines, and otherwise they don't set policy. So I would, whatever you do, just to make sure that people understand that they should still avail themselves of you as policymakers.
I think it's a good point. Although I would argue that even for the that don't have direct decision-making authority, they do play a role in planning, and probably public input opportunities are good there. Well, again, I appreciate the other folks that have to put on the agenda. I think it's been good. Some good questions have come up about, because a lot of boards do this, so it's not like nobody does. So I don't have any other questions for now. I'd like to kind of just personally kind of think about the questions I got ready for input, and maybe go through a list of looking at which boards do already take public comment, which ones don't, and think about whether bringing a new policy forward might make sense in the future. So, any other comments on this before we move on to the next item? All right, thank you, everyone. And again, Donna was joking, but we will have public comment, and if you have thoughts on this,
That's all right, you just missed a good opportunity, Brad. We'll see it later.
we welcome them in just a couple of minutes. All right. Okay, next item on the agenda is consideration of a contract for Cadmus for up to $100,000, 50% of which will be paid by the city of Asheville, 50% by Buncombe County, to develop a renewable energy plan. This is another item that we had a presentation on at a previous meeting and discussion. So, and already voted to approve up to this amount. So really this is about selecting this specific organization to carry out the work. And Jeremiah Littlewood will share a few comments.
Okay, good evening. So the county solicited responses to an RFP for renewable energy planning services in order to develop an actionable plan to address the 100% renewable goal passed by the commission as a part of setting the county's strategic priorities. We had 5 qualified firms that responded, which we're very happy with. Selection committee was formed that consisted of city and county sustainability staff, facilities and maintenance staff, as well as some finance staff. We wanted a diverse set of eyes to read over these proposals and select the qualified firm. After reviewing the proposals and interviewing candidates, the committee unanimously agreed that the Cadmus Group was far and away the top choice. So what you have on your agenda tonight is a negotiated agreement between the county and Cadmus to provide those planning services. The goal of which will be to develop this roadmap to reach our 100% renewable goal with concrete actionable steps that we can take, and just as important, the financial impacts of those steps. To essentially create a plan that continues to guide this work into the future. So policy changes, site assessments for potential renewables, and how we can incorporate this as a thought process in how we do business going forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, I've got one on the attachment B. So we're supposed to 100,000 versus 50,000 county 50,000.
Correct.
So when I look at the numbers, only $25,000 of that is for a renewable energy plan.
Mm-hmm.
And site identification, I'm assuming that is identifying the sites that.
Yeah, that can be looking
be
at anything
suitable for.
from publicly owned facilities to potential public-private partnerships, just doing a total site assessment of all potential available county land or facilities that could incorporate renewables.
So the impact assessment of 19,000, did you vet that, or who's?
The entire committee did.
So the committee did that?
Correct, yeah, and again, that was, so the committee consisted of sustainability staff for the city and the county, as well as facilities and maintenance for the city and the county, as well as some of the finance staff. She's no longer with the county, but Jennifer Durrett, who was formerly our controller, was a part of that selection committee as well.
Any other questions?
Is it, and I might ask someone more experienced than myself, is it uncommon for, some of these amounts just look excessive to me, so, just look at, maybe it's understanding even more, not against them.
Sure.
But, I'm trying to understand why the plan is only 1/4 of the actual. Maybe it's because there's so much labor that's got to be done.
I think that, yes.
Part of it, because that's actually writing the report and things like that. But a lot of this is having stakeholder workshops, reviews of policies and strategies that you might look at, impact assessments. Then they've got to go through and do site identification of where you might put certain facilities and things like that. So all of that, it has to be done before you can sit down and actually draft a report and compile that and that sort of.
So George, you don't think the Schedule D is,
I looked at everything, and I will say this, we did not include it, but Cadmus had about a 20-page background on us. They're a very reputable firm. They have a tremendous amount of experience in these types of claims. So I felt very comfortable that they selected a good firm.
So what's the next step on this? When do they present the plan to us?
Absolutely, that will absolutely be the next step, is that once a plan is developed, we will come before the board with recommendations, recommendations on potential implementation of renewables, cost associated, recommendations for potential policy changes that we can help implement to, move the ball forward with renewable energy. So yeah, that's absolutely the next step, will be to present that to the board and allow us to have that help us make the decisions going forward as to how we plan to reach the goal.
And the term of the contract says from October to June, so we're behind a little bit in getting it approved. So that means probably July, August, you should be getting it approved.
Someone make a motion to approve.
All right, this motion and a second to approve. Any questions of the public at this time on the motion? All right. Before we vote, I do want to disclose I work in the solar energy industry, but I do not do any work for Buncombe County or the city of Asheville government, and will continue to not do so in the future. But I did want to put that on record.
I didn't know you did that.
It was brought up at another meeting. You probably forgot about that.
If I could make one quick point of clarification, Mr. Yelton was kind enough to bring this to my attention. As a part of the budget amendments that are further down the agenda, there's a budget amendment to add the $50,000 from the city of Asheville to our budget to pay for their portion of it. It is not an additional $50,000. It does not change the total amount being paid, and that maybe wasn't super clear reading through the agenda tonight. So I just wanted to make that public. That is just simply to add Asheville's portion of the total cost of it.
Thank you for that clarification.
That's an easy one. So does that need to be in the, how do we need to make the motion?
Well,
I know, but did I do it? I mean, all I did was make a motion. We did it right. You're in a hurry to get to that cake, aren't you?
yeah, no, that was, we was going to give up to 50,000, right? It could not go over that. And, I mean, looking through these numbers, I mean, for instance, it's come up to exactly 100. I mean, that's, yeah.
Part of that is they don't come to you with recommendations, they're pretty good idea.
The dollar or something,
Well, there is a contingency.
So, to Commissioner Presley's point, the other thing, if you look at that, there's not a lot of money on their expenses, so I don't know if they, because it runs this amount, do they limit themselves at $2,700 in expenses? Does that cause it to come up that even amount, or are they just trying to get all the money?
So quickly, to address your point, their budget proposal to us was $97,000 and some change. The $2,200 plus that's in there as a contingency is just that. It's a contingency. It doesn't necessarily mean that money's going to be spent. So their budget was slightly less than $100,000, but we have $100,000, and so we added that money as contingency. That their budget is less than that. So in terms of expenses, they actually have a local presence. They have an office here in Asheville, so I don't think there's a ton in additional travel expenses and things of that nature that they anticipate spending.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Any further comments, questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, next item is FY 2019 budget amendment summary. We have four.
Good evening, Commissioners. So the first item on your budget amendment summary is just that, referencing Jeremiah's presentation with Cadmus. We are requesting that you approve, enable us to budget the $50,000 worth of revenue from the city of Asheville with the corresponding increase to the $50,000 of expense for their 50/50 share of the interlocal agreement. So that's the first budget amendment request.
Do you want to, can we approve all of them as a group, or can we just go to each one? Let's just knock them out one at a time. Well, the problem is, why don't you go through and present each one, and then we'll decide whether to approve it as a group or vote.
So the second budget amendment request, again, references your previous meeting where the commission approved, based on your commitment to early childhood development, funding in the total amount of $200,000 to assist with the construction and expansion of Swannanoa Valley Child Care Council, doing business as Children and Friends Enrichment Center. So please remember that we had $79,000 in our current education program support budget, pairing that with a request of $121,000 from the general government contingency to make up to the $200,000 to meet that approval.
Quick clarifying question on that, is that funding be administered directly to the nonprofit? Okay, that had just been raised when we last met, just clarifying. Thanks.
So the third budget amendment request is in reference to $76,487 as a request that comes from our Department of Health and Human Services, specifically the Department of Public Health. The department made application for federal funds that were being awarded through the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services in an effort to continue opioid awareness, in addition to bringing local services for harm reduction in our community. I know that you've heard Dr. Jennifer Mullendor with the Department of Public Health speak to that issue. And program staff are here to answer any questions if you have any about that. So the request is to be able to budget the revenue for the federal dollars and the associated expenses for the areas that are outlined for expenditure.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve these three budget amendments, including the $50,000 for the sustainability office, which is discussed, the $121,000 for the pre-K project, and $76,487 for the opioid mitigation. All right, there's a motion and a second. Further discussion? Any members of the public wish to comment on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
We have one more.
Yeah, not on this bill. Yeah, sure. Okay, and are you presenting this too?
I can believe I am. Unless anybody else would like to come forward. All right, great.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So previously, at the request of our interim county manager, Mr. Wood, on October 10th, he did put forward a memo to you as a board, making you aware that he would like to request from the School Capital Fund Commission the ability to approve $400,000 for a school safety security assessment, in addition to $75,400 on behalf of Asheville City Schools and Buncombe County Schools to conduct an engineering study in relationship to radio installation around signals within those schools. So this amendment that board, the School Capital Fund Commission, did approve that request to be paid with the Article 39 dollars. The School Capital Fund Commission, in its regular course of business, additionally has approved and is recommending the other projects that are outlined for your approval for Article 39 dollars to be used to fund these particular projects.
Just for the record, you want to go ahead and read those?
I certainly
Just
can.
go ahead and read them.
I sure can. So that will be, so the revenues for those particular projects that I will review, $2,410,400 is anticipated to be revenue from bond proceeds, in addition to $855,679. and another $4,685,000, all from bond proceeds or the revenues. The projects is the security assessment for $400,000, radio upgrade engineering study for $75,400, radio upgrade equipment and install $1,935,000, Hall Fletcher roof replacements in Asheville City Schools $428,375, Hall Fletcher restroom renovations, Asheville City Schools $427,304, Irwin kitchen renovations $1,950,000, Hall Creek and Fairview Elementary School renovations, $675,000. Sand Hill Venable Campus repaving and road construction, or road repair maybe, $200,000. Leicester Elementary School, the HVAC and energy controls, $875,000. And Inca High School track and field replacement for $985,000.
Just a comment, was pointed out, these are all recommended by the School Capital Fund Commission, which includes representatives from the city school system and the county school system. And so these were recommended at the last meeting, and and basically reflect the highest priority projects identified by both school districts, which is inclusive of the security studies and security improvements. The rest of these projects have been on both schools' capital fund project list for some time, and we're working our way through them to get down to these.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any comments on the motion from the public? All in favor from the county commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, we now come to our board appointments. And the first of which is sorry, what? Oh, yeah, I think we're ready. Let's do that now. Ron Payne, good evening. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us at this meeting. And so add to the agenda at the beginning of this meeting, consideration of a financial settlement with Michael Green.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, I'm here this evening to make a recommendation to you as to a resolution of a civil lawsuit currently against Michael Green, but only against Michael Green. And just for background information, you may recall that Mr. Green, along with his mother, was indicted back in April this year. And if you read the indictment, the allegations against Mr. Green specifically allege misuse of the P card and other things, a total of approximately $7,500. It was discovered that while he had not been indicted on other matters, the total amount that Buncombe County was probably outlays misdeeds was approximately $38,000, $1,500, a little over $1,500 had previously been paid when it was first reported back in, I think it was 2008. I have reached a tentative agreement subject to your approval with his attorney that they will pay $40,000 to Buncombe County. You may also recall he was one of the folks who also received insurance policies, but he surrendered or assigned those to the county, and that was used in part to get the $2,088,000, which we got back from the insurance company, which leaves us about $222,000 short of being made whole on that $2.31 million that was wire transferred out of here to buy the various policies, including those on Wanda Green. Wanda Green, of course, had cashed her policies in, and we were unable to obtain an assignment of those, but we are still pursuing our civil remedies against her. In the first lawsuit, as I call it, the one that was a result of the first indictment against she and her son, and in the second lawsuit against her, Nancy Stone, John Creighton, Joe Wiseman, and Mr. Wiseman's company. But I would recommend this will only result in a limited release of Mr. Green. In other words, should something else be discovered that is not specifically referenced in the release, we will be free to pursue Mr. Green in a legal action if you so chose to do so. But I believe that the $40,000, along with the surrender of the life insurance monies we got, would make Buncombe County whole insofar as possible for the misdeeds of Michael Green. And I would recommend that to you as your attorney.
Second.
All right, there is a motion and a second to support a financial settlement of $40,000 with Michael Green. Further discussion? Okay. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on the motion? All right. I'm supportive of the recommendation. Mr. Payne, I want to say thank you for your work on this, and this is an ongoing matter as you described, and we are glad to see that the county has already received over $2 million in the settlement from the insurance company, and this is another step in terms of our goal, which is to make the county taxpayers fully whole for the funds that we're going to spend. And in the big scheme of things, this is one of the somewhat smaller items in there, but it's an important one that each of the folks who misappropriated funds take steps to repay that. So I'm supportive as well. Any other comments on the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, we now come to board appointments. And the first one on our list is the...
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just got on here again some recommendations, and I thought last time we had talked about that not being on there.
No, what we discussed is it's only on ours. It's not on.
It's not on the website.
It's not on the website. So I think I'd said something about that. I didn't want people to think that we had already decided.
Okay. On the first item is the Historic Resources Commission. There's one vacancy. Unless somebody wants to argue for interviews, why don't we just start over on Commissioner Fryer's side, and each commissioner identify which of the candidates you prefer to support.
I'll start. Lorraine.
Lazarus.
Lorraine.
Lazarus.
Lazarus received 4 votes. Okay. The next committee is the African American Heritage Commission. There's 1 reappointment and 2 vacancies, and we do have the correct number of people to fill all of those. So I'll make a motion we reappoint Sasha Mitchell and appoint Lynn Smith and Catherine Mitchell.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? On the County Board of Adjustments, I would personally support doing interviews for this. This is just, so, these are all important, but the Board of Adjustments is one of the most important boards. So I'd like to interview the applicants for this.
So I'm actually very familiar with one of these that are on here, and I would like to make a recommendation with Josh Holmes. I know his family. He's non-controversial, and I think he would do an excellent job. So I would like to make a motion for Josh Holmes.
I'd like to say.
All right. Let's just, if we're going to go ahead and vote on it, let's just go down each commissioner, identify who you prefer, and we'll see who gets the most votes. All right. Okay. Mr. Presley?
Josh Holmes.
Hannah?
Holmes.
Holmes.
The Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. We have one vacancy, we actually have 3 vacancies for different positions. Okay, so I think the way we should look at this is we have specific positions we need to appoint for. So why don't we first take up the substance abuse professional position. There's only one candidate that meets that criteria, which is Kendra Queen Taylor.
So I move for Kendra Taylor.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. The next is for the youth position. There are 3 candidates who meet that criteria: Shelby Clark, Deanville Celestine, and William David.
Shelby Clark.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any? Yep.
I do want to say, I serve on JCPC, and I just want to note that I think it's very cool that we have multiple youth applying for this position. I think we're allowed to have 2 youth, well, I'll have to go back and look at the bylaw, but anyhow, I'm going to follow up with other folks on JCPC and just see if there might be some ways to follow up with the youth who applied, but perhaps do not get selected tonight.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I would like, I'm going to try to reach out to each of the youth applicants and just see if there's a way to get them connected and engaged. Well,
mean, what are
our meeting got rescheduled last week because of the ice storm was coming, so I don't know if there might be enough. I don't want to interfere with the flow, but just, you don't often see multiple youth applying for board.
Well, we could go ahead and do the general position because there's only one there, and if you want to do something later.
Well, here's the other thought. The general position could be anybody, so it could actually be another youth.
Well, it might be. I was trying to reach.
We have to appoint one youth, but another youth could fill the general position.
And I think Mr. Hanlon might be also. Based on reading his application, which is being considered the general position, I think. He referenced Ashland High School's in the past 2 years. We actually have a lot of youth interest in this, so I don't want to complicate something that has been thought through by other people, but I just want to raise a flag around.
Well, why don't we go ahead and appoint someone to the youth position on the which we have a motion for. So let's go ahead and finish the vote for, that's for Shelby Clark, right? Okay, all in favor of Shelby Clark, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Now, we do have one other appointment, and it is general, but that means basically any of the candidates can apply for this. So just because it's got the general position there doesn't mean other folks couldn't fill it too, although it sounds like, is Joe Hanlon the youth candidate as well? And if so, why weren't they identified as a youth position?
Any youth coming to the meetings is to be applied, so.
So, Commissioner, you're on that board.
I am, and our meeting, our next meeting is on November 30th, it was just rescheduled.
Yes, sir.
I think this is how they came from the actual board. They came recommended to the afterwards. So that's why they are on this report that way. So I'm not sure if he is a youth, but that's how they recommend.
Okay.
Just that clarification, and again, I don't want to interfere with what leadership of the board is.
Make a motion.
All right.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, great, thanks, everybody. Wait, there's more. The homeless initiative, we've got one vacancy and 2 reappointments. I'll make a motion to reappoint April Burgess Johnson and Rachel Nygaard. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, and we have 1 vacancy.
I would like to,
Let's go down. No, since there's a difference, just fine, let's just go down that. are both great candidates, so both will be great. Commissioner, we'll start with Ellen. She's already cast a nod to Eileen McMinn, and then Mr. Whitesides? McMinn. All right, McMinn's got more. And last one, Adult Care Home Committee.
Sharon White.
All in favor of Sharon White, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you to everyone who applied for these boards and commissions. We appreciate your work with these community boards. All right, we will now take public comment on any matters that we have not already held public comment on earlier this evening. Are there any members of the public who just wish to speak with us? You've got 3 minutes. Please share your name and where you live. Mr. Yelton.
Tanya from Jupiter, North Carolina. First and foremost, on public comment, you missed an opportunity, because what I was going to say a while ago, Brownie, is any commission or board appointed by these commissioners up here have the same power, I think, legally, as the commissioners. And you can override anything they do, or they may have to bring it to you for final approval. But they should operate by the same rules and regulations that this board operates by. Why not? And I suggest, and Brownie, that you take a 3-minute comment on items that they voted on. Because then if there's 2 sides there on that issue, they'll argue it out at that point, and then you take public comment at the end, and there'll be very little public comment at the end, because everybody would address their concerns during those board meetings. And I don't see why you don't do that, because I do respect you for doing that, okay? And I think you need to consider that. Number 2, I think in your own minutes here, when you get to public comment and there is none, you say there is none. Because I was talking to your secretary a while ago. If you get down to like the 30th, and Jerry Rice wasn't here and I wasn't here, so I figured there was no comment. But the section public comment was on the item. So if there is no comment, state there's no comment. So you will know that there was no public comment if you look back at those minutes later on in the year. Also, you need to be sure that all the boards and commissions that you appoint take minutes. At one time in Buncombe County, you used to have minutes, but I bet you right now, if I started asking you for minutes for your boards, you don't have them all. You need to find out if they're keeping minutes. They are required by law, if I'm not mistaken, to keep minutes. And number 2, the last thing. There was an item on the agenda today that was taken off that said there should be special consideration for development on severe slopes, such as, i.e., making 100 acres and only developing 15 of that 100, rather than saying 1 house per 3 acres. And it's correct, because when you say 1 house per 3 acres, you have roads all over the mountains, and what's the worst cause of pollution? Randy, you know it, it's roads. So that resolution, y'all need to look at it, it's in your agenda, and read the benefits of it, because I can scientifically prove to you that that was a good resolution, because it would have opened up the possibility of designing a project for the exact location, not just some one item fits all. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rice. And after Mr. Rice, we need to move to the public commission. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'd like to personally thank each one of you commissioners for your support during my wife's sickness and her death. And that meant a lot to me and my family. That's about all I can get out on that. Couple of things on public comment on these boards. I think it's really, really important. I've been to a lot of them, and I've been shut down on a lot of them not getting to speak. And this has been over the years. It's not just been 1 or 2 years. So I think it's really important. Give you a good example on the DSS board. They had public comment at one time, but it was kind of like choose yes or no or maybe. And you might get in if you know the rules, or you might get in if you got by a certain person. So they watch pretty close who come in. So I don't think that's the way it ought to operate. If the state's going to run the DSS board and the operation, there ought to be a way of the public being able to voice their opinions or concerns and being heard. And maybe your director can make some good changes within the department based on some of the things that he might hear. Because everybody's getting up talking about DSS ain't a bunch of crazy people. There's some real deep concerns here that the state ain't even doing their job. You can look at the county out in Cherokee and see what the state should have had oversight of, and you can understand that Buncombe County has some problems too. And they're not little problems. There's quite a few big problems within DSS and the establishment, as well as the judicial system over here in the big story building over here. And the family court system is just as bad as anything you could find. When you negate your responsibility on the court system and not be able to take your face and your child, your parents, or your children to the court and be heard, and it gets stalled in the family court system where you don't have a jury trial, there's something wrong with that. So that's what I'm speaking of. It's over on his head, probably what I'm saying. But Judge Payne back here, he understands those legal matters, and so does the other judges that I've talked to. And don't ever think they ain't some begging. So if we can flush these things out in these meetings where we can get some ideas, it's not even picking on the DSS board, I'm giving you an example. Because some of these things are very serious, it needs to be talked about, and then you ain't gonna be a Cherokee County getting into trouble. The other thing is, public, back here in the back, I'm really ashamed to say that I'm being rude back here. But I'm telling you, you need to do something about these mics, and it's been said over and over and over. I don't want to be rude, but I can't hear back here. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll move to the front. You did too.
Tim Wallace from Fairview. On public comment, the boards and commissions are a direct conduit to you folks. They do recommend such things as budgets, salaries, so that makes public comment at that level paramount. Also, I would prefer it to be in the same structure you folks have, which by the way is fantastic. Anytime you come to an old or new business vote, we all get to comment. At the end of the meeting, we get to comment. At the beginning of the meeting, we're dependent upon what the agenda says. This past month, I went to a meeting where all the agenda said was setting board meeting dates. What ended up happening was they went from monthly meetings to bi-monthly meetings, from meeting at 6:30 to meeting at 5, totally eliminating over half the people that attend those meetings because they have to work to 6. No public comment was allowed, and now boom, the people are out. And worse, they're frustrated because they think that that board didn't care about them. We don't want that. We want people to be, because I don't think the board would have done that move had they known the situation was going to exist. If people had stood up and said, hey, I work till 6, I won't be able to be here. At the end of the meeting, the board actually thanked everyone for their attendance, regular attendance at meetings. And they had just eliminated their ability to attend future meetings. So that's why I think that even with votes on old and new business, it's necessary. And at the end of the meeting, if there's been discussion like this here, we all were able to discuss this, now I can give my opinion. And I will be perfectly candid, I am really impressed that I'm able to do that. That I'm able to have you guys listen, the county manager, the assistant manager, it's a real blessing to all of us. And also, one other thing I noticed is that some of the boards can change their own bylaws. I kind of think that that's kind of an interesting one. I would prefer to see it that they can recommend a change to the bylaw to the county commission, and then the county commission can concur. That's just another thought. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Is there a need for a closed session? Okay, to consult with an attorney. Is that right?
That's why you stayed around.
Uh,
He gets the bill for it.
Okay. All in favor of,
I think I need to
go
state
ahead,
it.
all right.
We need a motion and a vote to enter into a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-3-10.11A3 to discuss a legal matter with retained counsel pertaining to the following cases: County of Buncombe versus Wanda Skillington Green, Michael Green, 18 CBS 77, and County of Buncombe versus Wanda Skillington Green, Amanda Louise Stone, John Creighton, Joe Wiseman, and Company, 18 CBS 4206.
Okay,
So moved.
is there a second? Or is there a motion and a second? Before we go to closed session, I just need to make a brief announcement, which I should have done before. December 3rd at 5 p.m., the county commission will hold a swearing-in session for Commissioner-elect at 200 College Street, room 326 here in downtown Asheville. And then on December 4th at 5 p.m. will be the next commissioner's regular meeting at 200 College Street, room 326. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're going to close session. Appreciate your support, John. Okay. I need a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion to go into adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.